Terrestrialization in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet is shaping up to be the most powerful gimmick in Pokemon, alright? Now, I know people say that with every gimmick that comes out. I know that that's like a trend that everyone says. Like with Mega Evolutions, you're making certain Pokemon turn ridiculously powerful. Like Rayquaza became ultra broken, and then you also had freaking like other Pokemon like Tyranitar become even better. Yeah, and then you had Z moves. People are saying, oh, you get a nuke and it's like a one-hit KO move that's broken, right? And then you had freaking Dynamax that made broken, right? But the reason why I think Terrestrialization is going to be the most broken gimmick is because it's going to literally take Pokemon that are garbage and become usable. The difference, I know that Mega Evolution did the same thing, right? But Terrestrialization gives every single Pokemon a buff. Every single Pokemon that is in this game is going to get buffed. Some Pokemon are going to get more buffed than others. And, you know, we already got ideas of Pokemon that are going to be broken. Like, taking a look at OU, Ferrothorn is going to be busted because literally the main weakness to Ferrothorn was the fact that, you know, even though it has really good defenses right here, and the typing, it's grass steel typing is what held it back because it's weak to fire, but you can terrestrialize and get rid of that and it becomes ultra defensive. Same with something like, oh my god, I'm terrified of terrestrialized Toxapex, taking advantage of its defenses. But then you also have something like Gyarados, which is going to become even more broken with terrestrialization because you could give it Earthquake and then boom, it becomes, you get rid of its weakness to 4 times weakness to electric. And when you look at typing is something that is used to balance a lot of Pokemon. A lot of Pokemon that are really powerful may have a bad type to hold it back. Like Gyarados has a really powerful Pokemon, but Water Flying holds it back. But removing that type weakness, specifically some Pokemon that have horrible types, and that's the main reason they get held back, will make a whole bunch of Pokemon a crap ton more viable, right? So I got 5-ish, well, technically I think this is 7 Pokemon. We're not going to go in any particular order, but I just wanted to talk about these. But the first Pokemon I wanted to talk about that I think is going to get absolutely busted when it comes to Terrestrialization. This was specifically focusing on Pokemon that are bad. Not Pokemon like Gyarados that are already good. I'm talking about Pokemon that you don't use. Pokemon that are known to be bad. And the first one I want to talk about is how do you spell it? Here it is. Aurorus. This Pokemon is horrendous. Let me tell you. Refrigerate is okay for like offense, like attacking, but then you have the main thing that this is used for, if you're ever going to use Aurorus, is Aurora Veil, right? Because you can set up Aurora Veil, and but the reason why Alolan Ninetales is the reason why Alolan Ninetales is used a lot for Aurora Veil is not because of its defenses. I mean, it has okay defenses, 100 special defense, but not really good HP. But it's just because it's fast. It got a speed boost, which is why it was good for setting up Aurora Veil, because it's fast. And it has a snow warning, so it can set it up automatically. Aurorus. Now, you know, you can also I guess question why Aurorus and not Abomasnow, because they both kind of do the same things. Aurorus is more bulky than Abomasnow, right? Just by stats, right? And so Aurorus' typing Rock Ice is horrendous. It is weak to fight, 4 times weak to fighting, 4 times weak to steel, it's weak to water, weak to grass, weak to just so many types that with Terrestrialization, this thing can come in, change its type to like steel, and set up Aurora Veil and become ridiculously bulky. That is ridiculous. That is crazy. Aurorus, the main thing that holds it back. So Alolan Ninetales is fast Aurora Veil. Aurorus will become bulky Aurora Veil because look at its defense. Okay, it may only have base 72 defense and base 92 special defense, but the 123 HP stat, if you invest, if you invest max in HP, right, and then you could choose to do max in a defense, plus Aurora Veil, plus changing your typing to a more defensive typing, you become extremely bulky, like ridiculously bulky. And I mean, you could talk about maybe Refrigerate Auroras, I don't know, terastallizing. The one thing I would wonder, if you terastallize into a normal type, how does Refrigerate work? I don't know. But regardless, I think that Auroras is, I think, one of the premier defense Pokemon that we're going to see if it's in the game. That's another thing. I'm not sure. These are Pokemon based off of what I'm just looking at Pokemon in general that are bad, that are going to become extremely broken and even more powerful. But I don't know every Pokemon that's in the game, and we're not going to know until the game releases. So, I mean, take that with a grain of salt, maybe because they see some of these broken things that Aurorus is. No, but then that's a lie, because Gyarados, we know Gyarados is in the game, so we've already seen Gyarados, and Gyarados is going to be crazy. So, anyway, Aurorus, that's one Pokemon. These aren't in any particular order, but I'm just saying, Aurora Veil, Aurorus, it's going to go from literally being unusable, because there's no reason to use Aurora Veil Aurorus, because it's going to die in one hit because it's slow. But you could come in to Terastallize, change your type, take a hit because you don't have to worry about bad typing, and then become extremely bulky. This Pokemon will become the premier one, or not. I don't know if it's going to be the best, but it also dual screens don't stack with Aurora Veil. So, but it also gets Sting. You got Substitute on here. You could throw a freaking did I see Toxic? Substitute Toxic. The only thing this thing really doesn't have is Recover. I don't think it doesn't get Recover, right? No, but it gets Rest. But I mean, when you're that bulky, Rest is really gonna be your friend. Does it get Iron Defense? It does get Iron Defense, so it can get Iron, and it actually gets some Steel Stab. I'm thinking changing this thing into Steel type is gonna be good. But really, you could use Terastallization to fill any holes in your team. Let's say you built all this team and you're like, damn, I could really use a Steel type. Just take Aurorus, make it a Steel type, right? Alright, but that's Aurorus. The next Pokemon I have that I wanted to talk about is, we're going to talk about, let's stick with rock types. We got Rhyperior. Now, rock and ground is, I want to say, one of the more common typings in Generation 1. You have Graveler, you have Onix, right? But I think Rhyperior is the best of that because of Solid Rock. Solid Rock is meant to balance Rhyperior's horrendous typing, because rock and ground have a crap ton of really common weaknesses. You're weak to grass, you're weak to fighting, you're weak to water. 4 times weak to water and grass. Two really common typings. You're weak to both of those 4 times. So Solid Rock helps reduce that weakness. But it helps reduce that weakness because you have glaring weaknesses, 4 times weakness, which Solid Rock helps Rhyperior a lot. But when you don't have 4 times weakness, if y'all can see where I'm getting here, if you remove the 4 times weakness, Solid Rock takes Rhyperior's bulk out the window. Now, if we look at Rhyperior's stats, it doesn't have the best special defense, but that's negated by having a massive 115 HP stat, and with the massive defense stat, this thing is eating hits for days. With like a max bulk set, you can change this thing's type to whatever physical hell. You can change this thing to Fairy type, and it'll become freaking like because Fairy is such a good defensive typing. Same with Steel. But essentially, you're removing your weaknesses, because even though you'll still be weak, types that you're weak to will only do 3/4 damage, and when you're already bulky, that makes you ridiculously bulky because you're already freaking taking neutral hits really good. But now even weak hits aren't hitting you that hard. That's gonna allow Rhyperior's bulk to skyrocket. Just because, like I said, Solid Rock is meant to balance its broken typing. A lot of Pokemon may have things about it that are balanced because of their typing being bad. Like we saw something like Colossal having the ability Steam Engine, which, because it can terrestrialize, it doesn't have to worry about being weak to water types. Because obviously no one's going to use a fire type move on a Colossal. I mean, you could read it, but mainly people are going to use water type moves. But Colossal is 4 times weak to it. But because it can terrestrialize, it can take advantage of that. This is an example of another ability that is going to become ridiculously more powerful because of terrestrialization. Now, now we're going to switch to more offensive Pokemon. And one of the more offensive Pokemon I want to talk about, there's actually 2, and both of them are from Gen 7. And we got Indeedee and Pincurchin. Now, the reason why both of these Pokemon are here, if you could see what I'm doing, I'm changing their abilities to terrain abilities. Now, what makes this broken is not even the fact that it can change type. Not the fact that it can change type. It's the fact that when you terrestrialize in the same type, you get an additional stat boost. So if I'm terrestrializing Indeedee into a psychic type, I essentially, well, defensively it's bad because you're getting a ghost weakness now, but the thing is that your initial type is boosted even further. I believe your stab type, instead of being 1.5, is being moved to 2.25, which allows Indeedee with Psychic Surge and Expanding Force, and Pincurchin with Rising Voltage, both of them, upon terrestrialization, will instantly have access to moves over 200 base power. Look at that. Because, look, I know that may sound crazy, but let's do the math. I'm pulling out my calculator right here. So we got Expanding Force here, which I have Pincurchin here just because Rising Voltage is going to have the higher base power. But Expanding Force is, I think, more useful because I think, well, both Psychic and Electric are good, useful offensive types. But, well, I guess you just got to pick it. I think Indeedee's faster, so you can easily Choice Scarf this thing and then literally be firing off base 200 power moves. Just because, look at this. Let's look at Expanding Force. Expanding Force is base 80 power, right? But then you get the 1.5 boost that it's given because being in Psychic Terrain. But then also being in Psychic Terrain gives it another 1.3 times boost, which boosts you up to 156 power, which plus this new stab that's going to make it times 2.25, you're looking at, if this is correct, if my math is correct, it's not even over 200. It's over 300 base power move. I'm looking at my calculations at 351 base power. That is ridiculous, right? And so I think if anything, Indeedee and Pincurchin, Pincurchin's slow, so you're gonna see it coming. So you're gonna have to knock this thing out. Pincurchin, Rising Voltage gets more power because it's twice as powerful in electric terrain, right? But I think ground types are going to be more common, so that's why I think ground types are going to be more common than dark types, which is why I think Indeedee's going to be better, and especially because Indeedee is faster, right? Base 95 speed, you can Choice Scarf this thing and then just be firing off base freaking 300 power moves just randomly, which is, I don't think that they should allow these Pokemon into the game because that is ridiculous, okay? That is ridiculous. You know, a lot of Pokemon will have higher base power moves, but may not have the best stats, right? But because Indeedee and Pincurchin have really good attack stats, Pincurchin has base 191 special attack, and Indeedee also has the higher special attack, which is why I'm thinking Indeedee would be far more broken. Base 105 special attack, shooting off a base 300 power move. Just being able to just come in, terrestrialize, and 300 power, that is, no Pokemon should be able to do that, period. But if Indeedee is in this game, it has just a base 300 power move, just because, right off the bat, because of its ability to just fire off Expanding Force. My God, okay, like I get Gyarados is scary, but I think but even then with Gyarados, I think with Gyarados to be really broken, to even though like switching types with Gyarados is going to be busted, I think it has to get a Dragon Dance up before it really starts getting, like, being able to tear through teams, because at the end of the day, it just transforms into a ground type, but if it's a ground type with Dragon Dance, now that gets kind of crazy. But Indeedee being able to just come in, 200 base power, Pincurchin, if you set up screens, I think Pincurchin with doubles, I'm mainly focusing on single battles, but Pincurchin in double battles, if you have someone with priority Trick Room, and this guy can get priority faster than everything because of its base 15 speed, in Trick Room, Pincurchin's going to be busted. In Trick Room, Pincurchin's going to be broken, okay? It's just going to be broken. Oh, water break. Take this time to go get some water if you haven't gotten water already. This is your certified water break. Back into it. All right. So, Indeedee and Pincurchin absolutely busted, right? So, we went off why those things are busted. Nope, I don't want to do that. Now, another offensive Pokemon. I'm just pulling up my list here. Another offensive Pokemon I want to talk about is Porygon Z. But also I want to talk about Porygon 2. But Porygon 2 is more of a defensive Pokemon. But I decided I want to put them both in here because I think they're both going to be pretty busted. Now, the reason why Porygon Z is going to be busted is because if Porygon G can change into a ghost type and then have adaptability boosted, boosting it, and then also having freaking terrestrialization boosted as well, being able to use Shadow Ball with terrestrialization, making Porygon Z a ghost type, that's just a nuke. Now, I think Indeedee may have... The thing that makes Porygon a little bit more of a nuke is because look at Porygon's base special attack stat. Base 135 special attack. Being able to just fire off freaking over... I think that's going to bring Shadow Ball's base power over 200 because of adaptive... Yeah, it will. Because it's going to be freaking... You got 80 base power, right? But then you can multiply it by 2 because of adaptability, right? But then you're going to have to multiply it by 2 again because that's 300 base power. We're seeing Pokemon being able to Uh-oh. That scared the hell out of me. A Sacred Almighty video just started playing that scared the hell out of me. But, we're starting to see Pokemon being able to just throw out over 200, over 300 base power moves just by existing. No setup. Pokemon just being able to come in and just throw out these ridiculous base power moves, right? And so I think, honestly, but the thing about these is that a lot of these situations are going to require, there are going to be situations where there are going to be Pokemon that are immune to it, right? So Earthquake Gyarados might want to, it's probably going to buff the flying type. Shadow Ball Porygon Z is going to buff the normal type, right? And then I guess Indeedee is going to force dark types, and then I mean, I guess with Pincurchin, you got freaking ground types being even further buff, so I guess that will buff Gyarados. But just the offensive power that this thing has is ridiculous. Now, Porygon 2, I think, is notable as a defensive Pokemon because it's a defensive Pokemon with offensive capabilities because it has a base 105 attack stat, special attack stat, which what that allows is if you terrestrialize into like electric type, that'd be cool. But let's say you terrestrialize into freaking whatever type you do, you're gonna have good offenses to boost it. And you can also use freaking analytic and that'll boost your attack, right? So let's say you're lower, you have low speed, you can change it into whatever type you want and be defensive and also have good offense. But with Porygon 2, with Eviolite, it becomes extremely bulky, and I think one of the only things that holds it back is its normal typing, because normal typing is an okay defensive type. I mean, it's immune to Ghost, but it's weak to very common offensive typings. Well, it's only weak to fighting, but that is a very common offensive typing. So being able to switch into like Ghost would be crazy. We're talking about Pokemon with crazy abilities, so I mean, hey, maybe you can even get the download boost, raise your special attack stat if you know how to use that, or tracing a broken ability. Maybe it's able to trace adaptability off of its freaking evolved form. But I think that Porygon 2 has the potential to be a really good defensive Pokemon. I don't think it would be as good. Well, which honestly though, what makes it better than Ferrothorn is access to reliable recovery. Because you can recover, right? You can have recover with this thing. And you know what? Something else the main problem with Porygon 2 is that it can get toxic. You can change this thing into a poison type, which poison isn't the best defensive type. It's weak to ground and psychic, but it does resist common offensive typing like fighting. It resists fairy. Those are two really good resistances. So changing it to a poison type, not being able to get poisoned, I think would make this thing a phenomenal defensive Pokemon, because it removes its weakness, being able that it can get poisoned. And I mean, its other weakness is getting knocked off, but if you knock off a Porygon 2, it's going to lose a lot of bulk, but it still has some bulk behind it. Base 85, base 90 defenses. Those are good defenses. But then this base 105 attack stat, talking about giving it a good offensive move. Even if Terra Blast is only, we don't know the base power of Terra Blast, but the thing is, if Terra Blast is like weak, like base 80 power, personally I think Terra Blast is probably gonna be 100 power and 5 PP, just to make it balanced. But if they give it like base 80 power, you could just use something like Discharge with more PP, and that's gonna really boost Pokemon that have really good offensive moves. I mean, or you can even just do Thunderbolt for more power, right? But I just want to talk about both Porygon Z and Porygon 2, right? But that's pretty much most of the Pokemon I want to talk about. There's one more Pokemon I wanted to talk about, right? And it's one of the Pokemon I thought about when making this video. I was thinking about Pokemon, and instantly I was like, because it's one of my favorite Pokemon. And I think that, hear me out, Klinklang will become a menace. Hear me out. One of the biggest problems with Klinklang, it gets one of the best setup moves ever in Shift Gear. Shift Gear boosts your special attack by 2 and your attack by 1. It's essentially an agility with a Dragon Dance. It's Dragon Dance and agility. But the problem with Klinklang is that its offensive moves just aren't there. Like, let's go to its physical move pool. You always gonna want to run Gear Grind, which, I mean, Terrestrialized Steel Gear Grind might be dope. But you got something like Wild Charge. Wild Charge is not a good, Wild Charge is just not a good electric move. It's 90 base power, but the recoil really holds it back. And then look, literally, these are all the physical moves Klinklang gets, and that's it. What are you gonna run? Rock Smash? Assurance, I guess? But literally, it does not have good physical moves. But the thing about Terrestrialization is that it gets a third move it can abuse. Because Terrestrialize, what we learned about Terra Blast is that it will be either physical or special, depending on which stat is higher. So that ultimately means that you can make Terra Blast a physical move for whatever type. Which, with Steel and Electric offensively, I think Electric is a good typing. Steel isn't the best offensive typing. It's more of a defensive typing. But you can easily add pretty much any offensive typing you want, right? And so, because you can add that to Klinklang with Shift Gear, you can literally Shift Gear. You Shift Gear first, right? Because you have a good defensive typing in Steel. You Shift Gear. And then, whatever, you could make it a really offensive Pokemon, right? You can give it, like, I don't know, you can make Klinklang a fighting type or whatever, and you will have a fast, hard-hitting, I think just being fast is like being able to set up with Shift Gear. I think Shift Gear is one of the best setup moves. So being able to Shift Gear and then just outspeed pretty much everything and hit it hard, adding that to any type, which will give Klinklang the main weakness it has, which is coverage. Terrestrialize gives it coverage in whichever type it feels like having, which I think we're just going to see whatever that type is. I don't know. I mean, the first thing that comes to my mind, I think ground, having ground is one of the best offensive typings, but a lot of ground types are slow. But fast Pokemon with Earthquake, something like Garchomp having speed and Earthquake makes it really good. Landorus Incarnate having that Earth power, that make ground types I don't even say one of them. I think ground type is the best offensive typing. And so being able to shift into that and have that coverage and be fast, I think will take Klinklang up. Now, there are other Pokemon that can boost, like, you could say all the bugs, like, oh, you can have a freaking, a fighting or fire type Butterfree, right? And I think that will makes any Pokemon that can set up inherently better, because a lot of Pokemon that can set up aren't that good. Like, for example, you want to look at Butterfree. Like, Butterfree can set up, but, I mean, its defenses are horrible, and you're not doing anything with this coverage move. So, any Pokemon that can set up that doesn't have coverage now gets coverage with Terastallize. That's what makes it broken. And I think this is going to be really fun. I think Scarlet and Violet is going to be a really fun game to play, just because it's going to open the meta. It's going to break it. And I hope that, you know, we're allowed to test and do these things, right? And because I think it's going to be fun. Sword and Shield really got really stale, mainly because there was no gimmick. And then it's like Stall kind of overtook it, and I think it got really boring really fast. So I hope that Smogon realizes that, like, that, you know, having a fun meta doesn't mean the most balanced meta. Like, for example, random battles are not balanced whatsoever, but they're fun. I mean, but I know OU is supposed to make it competitive, but I really think that, like, Scarlet and Violet has the potential to be one of the funnest games, because there's so much that you can, plans you can have, Pokemon that become really good. Like, I think every Pokemon can become great with Terastallization, just depending on how you use it. But anyway, that's gonna wrap up this video. Let me know what you think, guys, in the comment section down below. What Pokemon do you think is gonna become absolutely busted because of Terastallization? And I will see y'all in the next video. Yeah, I'm really hyped for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and I guess, oh no, competitive Pokemon is the main reason why. I'll see y'all in the next video. Peace.